14th Dalai Lama was found at age 2 in eastern Tibet. In Tibetan Buddhism, High Lamas are believed to reincarnate, to come back to serve as suffering humanity. Thus it was that search parties were sent out after the death of the 13th Dalai Lama. A vision guided them to the child of a humble family in a small village. The boy was tested in the customary way. Religious objects belonging to the previous Dalai Lama were offered to him along with identical replicas. It's said that he chose correctly every single time. Enthroned at age 4 in the palace of his predecessors, the young Dalai Lama grew up in a world unlike anything we're familiar with in the West. Sealed off by the high Himalayas, over 6,000 monasteries dotted the Tibetan landscape, housing a substantial portion of the entire population. In Tibet, the idea of the separation of church and state did not exist. This was a uniquely spiritual society. The rigorous monastic education system, with its practice of day-long debates and years of meditation, was the intellectual and religious foundation of life. Then came the watershed year of 1949 and the Chinese communist occupation. At first, the Chinese assured the Dalai Lama they would not alter the society's institutions, but in the late 50s, they went back on their word. Certain that the only way to prevent a bloodbath was to go into exile, the Dalai Lama escaped across the ancient fortress of stone and ice that had isolated Tibet from the rest of the world. 100,000 Tibetans followed him into India. It was an event of enormous significance, both historically for the Tibetan people and personally for the Dalai Lama himself.
This century, I think, clearly showed the war and peace. Now there is not much room to move. So we have to find another alternative. Now that is deeper realization of oneness of entire human being.
The Dalai Lama, the spiritual and political leader of the Tibetan people, was forced into exile in 1959 when the Communist Chinese army tightened its grip on Tibet. I first met His Holiness in 1987 on his 4th trip to the United States. I was struck by his great personal warmth, his genuine concern for others. In many ways, it is this quality that has defined his unique role in the world. He's a statesman, a leader of the international movement for human rights, a spokesman for the Tibetan people, and the world's foremost Buddhist leader. Perhaps most important, the Dalai Lama is someone who touches our hearts. Since going into exile, the Dalai Lama has tirelessly devoted himself to preserving the national identity of the 6 million Tibetan people. But like Mahatma Gandhi, his struggle to regain his people's sovereignty has been steadfastly non-violent. He rejects guerrilla warfare and terrorism. Instead, he encourages compassion and kindness, even toward the occupiers of his homeland. He elevates these qualities into cornerstones of the global effort to achieve world peace and human rights. In this way, he represents a new kind of world leader who embodies the principles of peace through inner development, who shows us through the general way he leads his life that the path of patience and nonviolence, while it may take longer, enhances our human dignity. In recognition of his work, the Dalai Lama was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1989.
Ours has been a long struggle. We know our cause is just. Because violence can only breed more violence and suffering, our struggle must remain non-violent and free of hatred. I accept the prize with profound gratitude on behalf of all those who struggle for freedom and work